Welcome back to Umbrella Rebellion. We are continuing our deep dive into IBLP's Men's Manual. I hope that y'all have been enjoying this series. If you are new here and you have no idea what we're doing, I highly suggest that you go back to the previous videos, either on TikTok, YouTube, or the podcast platforms. I have edited the smaller weekly clips into one episode for the podcast. So if you want to quickly catch up on all the things we have covered so far, a great way would be go to either podcast on YouTube or any podcast platform and catch up on the previous episodes. If you haven't yet followed us, wherever you're listening to us now, we ask that you go ahead and hit that follow button or subscribe button, and we would appreciate you joining our rebellion. Side note, I am working on some different layouts this week because YouTube is the videos are landscape, TikTok, they're vertical. It's really hard to record an episode for two different platforms that have two different setups. So if you have any feedback on the differences for this week's videos, I would love to have your feedback. If you care or don't care if they're vertical or not on YouTube, I would love to know. So with that being said, we are going to go ahead and we're going to move on to our next question in this series. And man, it has been absolutely crazy. So we are now on question number 8. A newspaper should report all the facts it gets because the public has a right to know. I am scared and anxious and kind of wondering where this is going to go. And I'll remind you, I have not pre-read any of these questions or the answers. Let's see what Bill Gothard has to say. Answer for 8 is false. How did I know that was going to be the answer? Let's see how he explains it. Truth out of balance leads to error. Incomplete facts or facts put in a negative light promote false conclusions in the minds of the readers. Detrimental information about people should never be made public until all the facts have been checked out privately. It is never right for a public news media to violate God's moral standards. Wow. I just realized, because obviously I haven't read all of this, that they have verses at the bottom. I know I haven't addressed them for the first 7 questions, but we're gonna address the Bible verses, and I don't know if we even need to go there. You tell me. Let me know if you prefer for me to read the Bible verse or not, because I know it can be super triggering for people, and I don't want to continue to trigger you even more. Okay, I'm going to try and read this fast so we can get through it because it's 6 whole verses. 2 Timothy 3, 1 through 6. This know also that in the last days perilous times shall come. For men shall be lovers of their own selves, covetous, boasters, proud, blasphemers, disobedient to parents, unthankful, unholy, without natural affection, truce breakers, false accusers, incontinent, fierce, despisers of those that are good, traitors, heady, high-minded, lovers of pleasure more than lovers of God, having a form of godliness, but denying the power thereof. From such turn away. For of this sort are they which creep into houses and lead captive silly women laden with sin, led away with divers lusts. Oh my God! This is his verse that he justifies. Let's read the question again. A newspaper should report all the facts it gets because the public has a right to know. And he says no, that they shouldn't. We have to have biased media that only shares one side because there can't be ever two sides to a story. There can never be alternate thoughts and alternate conclusions to any one story. It has to be there's only one truth and you can only report on that truth. Like no news would be shared. No news would be shared. And that is why we have reporters that report things as this is an accusation. This is supposedly what happened. They're not supposed to sit there and say, this is what happened. That's why you hear them say, this person was accused, because they haven't been found guilty yet. In light of what happened with the survivors who filed a lawsuit against Bill Gothard, can you premeditatively know that somebody's going to file a lawsuit on you in 1979? Or I don't know when this was updated, but don't trust the news media. Right? Like that's setting this up to don't trust the news media. And the verse that he gives is just like accusing people of doing things because of sin, right? They're without natural affection, they're truce bakers, they're false accusers. It is setting up to doubt anything that is reported in mainstream media or even in alternate media. Or get your news from this source because it's going to have a Christian worldview. Don't believe it unless I tell you, because I am the only one who is authorized to tell you whether this is right or wrong information. Like, what is his goal here? I mean, I think I'm kind of pinpointing it, but what are your thoughts? Like that last verse. Like my mind is just so frustrated right now with this whole thing, considering I added the verses to it, because it makes no freaking sense to use this verse against news reports. The last verse. And led captive silly women laden with sins. So you can blame it on a silly woman that's sinning for any false accusations, quote unquote. This makes me mad, because this is why people did not believe those women when they came forward, because he set up his whole entire organization to distrust anyone who speaks out against someone who is a quote unquote man of God. And he's not the only one that did it. I was in Independent Fundamentalist Baptist Church, IFB churches. They did it too. And they would use the Bible to discount people like this. And yeah, I'm pissed because people weren't believed, that were harmed. Children who had horrific things done to them. Children were not believed. You can excuse it by any means you want in that verse. Everything in there is an excuse to not believe somebody's story. And this is why it is so important that we speak up as survivors to tell the truth of what happened to us, because they set it up to where people would not be believed. Let me know if you agree with me on this one. I'm only one question into this week's episodes. Whoo, it's going to be deep. All right, gal. With that, I'm going to close this episode, and I cannot wait to see what your comments are going to say. I'm excited for this discussion. If somebody has not told you today, or ever, I am proud of you.